Recording in progress.
Hello, welcome to MyWebUniversity free educational YouTube channel. I'm going to just share my screen first. Let's share the screen and then we look at this welcome page, which is my banner basically for welcoming you to MyWebUniversity free educational videos. And also, I'm going to just ask you to please subscribe at our YouTube channel, which is this channel that is free educational videos at MyWebUniversity. And then the videos are all posted on YouTube already. So if I go to this page right here, you can see that this is the channel where this URL that I posted here on the terminal, that you can go to this URL and then watch any of these videos, and you're welcome to subscribe. We have a playlist on these ones, and we have a lot of channels that you could watch them as you go through the videos. Let me bring up the page. Is like a number of videos. Basically, you're welcome to watch any of them, whether you're learning Unix, Linux, Ubuntu, shell programming, Bash scripting, awk programming, Python, C, C++, and then Apache web servers, MySQL database. I have a lot of videos, especially for Python programming. I'm still posting a lot of the videos for the Linux Ubuntu, the direct path to Linux Ubuntu, my book, which I have for today's session that allocated chapter 4. But chapter 4 is about 88 commands, as you can see on this table. Altogether, if I just look at the examples, there are 10s and 20s examples, or 5 examples on each of these commands. So more than several hundred commands will be covered. So it is not feasible to just cover all of them in one chapter or one session. What I have breaking down each of these session into 8 rows of 11 commands. So the first row, which is start with useradd, I'll just cover those ones today. And so let me just make this screen a little bit bigger. So today we will be discussing chapter 4, useradd, userdel, usermod, groupadd, groupdel, groupmod, users, systemctl, catman, password check, pwck, ck, and grpck, group check, grpcheck, grp check, or group check for checking the groups, etc group file. So in this one, if I just go through each of these sessions, it will be a while, but I'm going to cover only the first 11 commands today on this session. And I've presented this PowerPoint presentation here also, which I want to go through kind of a slideshow for it. This is my main page at MyWebUniversity website, which is mywebuniversity.com, and this URL. So when you go there, you will be presented basically with a table of contents for all the 7 chapters for the direct path to Linux Ubuntu, my book. And then we're going to cover chapter 4, the first row of chapter 4, as I showed you. And then this is search for any Linux manual pages is chapter 7 of my book, which I have written a Python program to just allow you using an internet browser. And as long as you have access to the internet and you could use your favorite browser, you could search on internet at my website for any Linux or Unix related commands, especially Linux Ubuntu, because the version that I'm running is Linux Ubuntu on that web server. And then the data for this information that is going to be happening is all dynamic. As you type in the command, you choose your command, and then out of those 7,000 commands, any commands that you type in, it will give you documentation. Also, the technical documentation, which is a combination of Unix, Solaris, Unix Mac, Linux CentOS, Linux Ubuntu, Windows Help, and Windows PowerShell. This technical documentation is a combination of about 60,000 technical documentation that I mentioned. I had to do this one in order for the developers to just be able to get any help from technical documentation, whether it's PowerShell or Windows or Linux manual pages or Unix or manual pages. So you can get those ones. Unfortunately, they are not dynamic because I don't have 5 or 6 different web server based on the operating system, whether it's Windows or Solaris or Mac or Linux or CentOS or Ubuntu. So I'm only having the dynamic one on this search for any Linux manual pages because I'm generating it as you go dynamically on the Linux web server that I'm hosting. And it's hosted in the cloud. So at this time, we're going to just go to the next page, which is a table of content for my entire book. And then we're going to cover chapter 4, which is advanced Unix and Linux command. And when you go to the advanced Unix and Linux command of this book, The Direct Path to Linux Ubuntu, you're also welcome to click on the YouTube and search for MyWebUniversity Free Educational YouTube channel, and then you would be presented with that channel that I showed you, so you can subscribe and watch these videos yourself and then learn from them, as well as these are the ones that I'm just going to cover in this session. The 11 commands on the first row, I'm going to cover these ones. We're going to discuss the what is section, the man pages for them, and then the examples that I'm going to show you. The examples is both going to be shown at the browser side, on the server side that I'm just going to show you how you could issue these commands or read the manual pages or read the technical documentation I provide you, or just run the command and get the output of it dynamically on the server side if the command is not like a system higher system privilege kind of commands that, like for example, useradd requires a sudo or root access. When you're running on a web server, I just don't want to compromise that kind of chances that everybody creates an account on our server. That's not feasible, that's not allowed. So I have written the program to protect those kind of situation. But the idea is for you to get help and learn it online without paying so much for buying a lot of books and then going to register for universities and colleges and paying a lot of money and then time allocated everything, when you can just log into any just log into the internet and watch the YouTube for free, or just go to subscribe to our channel and then you have everything for free available to you. And the subscription is also free. So you can just, you're welcome to come in here. The next list of commands that I'm just going to skip would be a next session for chapter 2, part 2. And this is start with the type. And the third one is pkill. Start with pkill. That's part 3. And this is curl is part 4. PS3, which stands for process stream 3. That is part 5, and then GDB is GNU Debugger part 6, and then netstat part 7, and gcore part 8. That will complete all the 88 list on the main chapter that was on chapter 4. This is part of the manual pages that I wrote on all available Linux Ubuntu commands, and that you can just search and read it and understand it. This would be the summary of today's session, which we are going to cover next right now. And that would be like covering all those 11 commands that I just listed. And then at the end, I want to thank you for your subscription. And I want to also just make sure that you subscribe to our channels so you could get the latest update as soon as I post it. With that, let me just go back to the website. So I'm going to minimize this window. And then on the website, when you go here, as you can see, before I go to the website, this is the channel that I was telling you about, the subscription on YouTube. So if you search for MyWebUniversity free education videos, you're welcome to watch any of the videos and subscribe. But let's go back to the chapter 4. In chapter 4, we're going to discuss useradd, userdel, usermod. Those 3 commands has to do with system administration, creating the user account. And then groupadd, groupdel, groupmod has to do with group modification, whether you're adding it or deleting it or modifying it. And the user command is just showing you who are the current logged on user on the system. Systemctl is a main systemd command. Let's not go through each one of these ones as I'm going as a second time or third time. I want to cover one by one before we finish this session. And then at this time, I'm going to click on the useradd. And then on the book, as I promised, on each section, I made some what is section, which tells you what is the command for. For a useradd, it says administrator, a new user login on the system. And then what is userdel, deleting a user from the system. And then modification is to modify the login session information in the system. Similarly for the groupadd, groupdel, groupmod. So the what is section is there. Then I show you like a host name. In this case, I was originally logged in on a Solaris VM that I was building these things. You are similarly using these commands on Solaris platform. The syntax of the parameter that are passed on or argument that are passed on and how many arguments it takes maybe a slight little difference, but I'm showing you on the documentation that machine that I did it was Solaris. And then when I'm going to do it today is at Linux. For example, when you do the password for Solaris, you put -r files and then the password you change it. But on Linux, you do passwd and then password file name, and you don't put -r files. And so groupadd, groupmod, all of this syntax is shown. At the meantime, I'm just related commands like who am I or who am I without the space or groups or ID with certain arguments. I'm going to show you those as well. And then as we go through the commands, you can see that I'm creating an account, I'm modifying it and everything. So you're welcome to read this page and then understand it and practice it. But please make sure you practice on your development machine, fully understand it before you do your INT or integration machine or testing. Various kind of test servers, you could test it to make sure that you're not doing something inaccurately on a production machine. So some of these ones are higher level of system administrative privileges that you have to have at least some years of experience in order to maybe modify other people's account. And then whether you're doing it on a local machine that has 5 or 100 users, maybe you could do it on a LDAP server that is thousands of accounts. But then the LDAP servers is a hierarchical database model, or the Kerberos, those accounts are almost like a database that you could just create a certain interface and create those accounts and then modify them. Everything is much more easier maintained and much more easier to just when somebody leaves the company, you could just remove their account or just make sure that their home directory doesn't get changed or anything. So here I'm also providing the manual pages as I showed you the 3 section on the man pages. You can see here for useradd, and if you want to just say userdel, you could see the userdel command is going to show here. And then if you do groupadd, you could see the groupadd section is coming. Notice these sections are groupadd section 8. So you could also do a -S3 -S8 and then group group modification, like for example, it will just change the group modification, but because we put -8, section 8, it will just produce the same thing. So this is administrative level privileges. Now we have already done this for the useradd, userdel, usermod. I want to go back to this screen and just start covering these 6 commands from command line. For the first 3 is useradd, userdel, usermod. The next 3 is groupadd. So if I just make this screen a little bit more bigger, and then just go here, notice the first 3 that I have here are useradd, userdel, usermod, groupadd, groupdel, groupmod, the next 3. So those are all related to the command I'm going to cover here. And then here, if I just want to maybe make this a screen, I already showed you the banner. So let me just clear the screen here. And then I'm going to make this screen wide enough that covers. Let me just not make it too wide, and then just minimize this window. And this is good enough to fit in the center here. And we're going to do this. So if I just type in useradd by itself, it's gonna give me a syntax of how the parameters are there. So let me clear my screen, say useradd, and then pipe more. And then notice the pipe more is just going faster, and it's there. But useradd, because I'm having an external session, so useradd, when you're adding it, requires a login. If you want to just do a useradd by just giving a user, it will just create that user. But if you want to give it nothing as default, then you have to do this one. So now if I just clear my screen and I say useradd and then say Wahid1, notice Wahid1, it says permission denied because I'm logged on as W Lutfi, and then I don't have the privilege to create the user1. But if I just want to create user1, Wahid1, and then I want to do as a root with sudo privilege, I could log in. And then since I have a sudo access, now I'm logged on as root. And the reason I have a sudo access because there's an entry for my user ID on etc sudo or files. And it says that W Lutfi can run all the root privilege access, and then doesn't have to be kind of like restricted to any specific commands. So at this time, I'm going to just say useradd Wahid1. If I just do that one, I just created Wahid1 etc password, etc shadow, etc group. There are 3 files that is being attached when you add a user called useradd. So at this time, I created this user, and then I don't have a password entry on the shadow file. So the password entry is just exclamation mark, and then it, on the second field of the etc password, the local account is telling an X, meaning that there should be a password if there was an entry for it with the encrypted here. So at this time, I'm going to just assign a password for it. I'm going to say passwd Wahid1, and then I type in Wahid1 password. Let's see, I'm just writing something simple. And now I just do the same command. Notice that it is there with encrypted password that I did that and this. So now, because I just did not, when I created the account Wahid1 here, I did not give the shell name. It just says default shell is ben sh. Now I want to change that ben sh. So if I say get end password wahid1, notice that my shell is ben bash, ben sh. So I want to change that one to ben bash. And I say user mod for modification -s, ben bash for the user ID of wahid1. Now I do the same get end, and then you can see that I change it from ben bash to, I'm sorry, ben born shell to /ben born again shell. Bash is stand for born again shell, which means it's a superset of sh and corn shell, and it has a lot of new functionality and features that everyone likes it. I taught a course at Bash Unix or Linux shell scripting, shell programming at Pasadena City College, and I taught several Python programming, 5 or 6 of them, and then one course of C++, but all of these courses are very useful when you're starting learning scripting or Python programming. So Ben Bash is the latest. ZSH are also great. It has a lot of things that Bash has, a lot of those features, plus very nice coloring and all the schemes that you want to use. Excuse me. So for this one, we're going to just modify this user now. Let's just do, say, switch user to wahid1. So now, because my home directory did not exist, when I created the user wahid1, it did not create that directory. That means right now I'm falling on the root directory. So if I just say exit out of here, the first thing that I could do is say make dir home wahid1, and then now I created home wahid1, but the permission is root. In order for me to do switch user wahid1, it's still not going to be able to just touch the files, even though I do here. If I say touch this, I'm sorry, touch this, now say permission denied because of that permission on the /home wahid1. So I go change owner wahid1 with group of wahid1 for the /home wahid1. Now if I just do ls -ld, now it's wahid ownership wahid1 and group ID wahid1. So if I switch user to wahid1, now everything is okay because I have the user ID, the group ID, and then the files that are there. Has to be a space between ls -l. So when you do a file on this one, if you just look at this, and now I say touch this, now the file this got created with the right permission. Touch any file doesn't matter what you name it. Touch any file, and then it will create it. So rm store, now I delete both of them, and then at this time we created the account and it's good. Get end password wahid1. Now notice that /bin bash is there, so which user wahid1 automatically drops me to this, but then when I do the ps command, it says my default shell $$ is process ID of 328733 in this case, which is the bash thing. So if I just exit out of here and I just say which corn shell, and I want to change from bash to user ben corn shell or user /ben corn shell. So this /ben corn shell is the shell for corn shell, and I could say user mode minus shell /ben corn shell for wahid1. Notice that at this time I go clear the screen, I say switch user wahid1, and then I type in, and now I say PS. Now my shell is current shell, and then again dollar sign is there. If I switch to another bash and then say that's good, and so now my echo dollar sign is there. I switch to, let's say, true C shell. True C shell is there. Now my shell is changed. So, and this is the syntax of true C shell. So set env x is equal 5. Now, I'm sorry, because set env does not require equal sign, you could just say $x, it will just give you the 5. Or set env name Wahid Lutfi, Lutfi, and then just echo $name. It has to be case sensitive. I cannot type an uppercase name and it's not defined. So now I am on here. If I do echo $, I'm on true C shell, that process ID. Exit out of that one. I'm still Wahid 1, but then I could say PS now. Now I'm on $, on the bash process ID. So I have to do export and name as echo, and then say just define Wahid only, and now say echo $name. Now because I'm on a bash, I just use the equal sign with the export command rather than the C shell set env command. So I exit out of this one. Now I'm back to the main process, which is the current shell. That is my default shell. Echo $shell is just telling me that my default shell is there. And then echo $home is this home directory of home Wahid 1. And then, so I'm going to just, the PWD, echo $PWD is pointing to the current directory where you are at. Now, let's see, for the current shell also, the export command works like bash. Export, say name as equal, let's do in the name in uppercase, name in uppercase, and there's equal, like Hamid Lutfi, my brother. So like, let's say Hamid, and then we say echo and $name. You can see that changed. And then I'm going to exit out of this. Now I am back on the root. So the useradd, we did everything. I'm going to do userdel Wahid 1. Now, when you did the userdel Wahid 1, if I do a grep -i Wahid 1, etc password, etc shadow, and etc group are gone, but it is home Wahid 1 is still there, right? So if I just want to see a long listing of the files that are there, I did not have any files because I removed it earlier with the star. So at this time, I'm going to just need to just delete this home 1 Wahid 1, because I don't want to just have a dangling directory of 0 bytes with it. So I'm going to say rm-rf home Wahid 1. Be very careful with rm-rf because recursively forcing the directory that you're doing it, and if you have some other files in there, it will wipe out all of them, and you don't have backup of it. You're getting kind of like in a bad situation. So what you need to do is at this time, I'm going to just add another way of a useradd minus let's just do a group, create a group first. We're going to say group add, we say dev1. So now dev1 already exists, and let's just do a group. I don't need that group del dev1. So now dev1 is gone, and then if I just say group add dev1, and then grep -I dev1 from etc group. It is just added with group ID of 1004. So now I'm going to say useradd -D for the home directory of Wahid1, and then -M to just make sure that also create that one. -D is the directory. When you give -M, it says force the creation of the /home Wahid1. And then -S/ben, I want to just start with bash for this one, and then the actual user, let's call it Wahid1, and then -G, we want to just say the -G for the group, we say the group1 and that we just created. Don't give the group as Wahid1 also. So now I say grep -I Wahid1 etc password etc shadow etc group. Notice that all of them are created, and then with the user ID of Wahid1, and then group ID of it is 1004, which is equivalent to dev1. So if I just say switch user to Wahid1, now I type in ID. Notice that the user ID is Wahid1 as name, and as number is 1024, 1002. So I do ID dash U for the number, ID dash UN for the group or NU, and then it shows Wahid1. Similarly for ID dash G for the group, and ID dash GN will show dev1. So now we have done it, and if you just look at this, the permissions of the group is also dev1. And then if I just say attach a new file, and then ls-l, notice the new file is created with a permission of 644 because my umask is 0022. So 0022, that means 6 minus 022 will give you 644, and that is read write for the owner, read and then only for the group, no write, no execute, and then the same thing for other people. Read only, but no write, no execute. Since it's a regular file, that does not need to be having any access privilege with executable bit. And if I just say make dir new dir, now the new dir is, notice the new dir make dir, say make dir make dir new dir. Somehow the, oh, let me just see what's going on here. -L make dir new dir1, and somehow it is not allowing it to just create a directory, and it is giving it as if it doesn't exist. So oh, the name somehow is not showing with the way that I created. Those two directory gets created. So when that happens, because of the color, you do ls-l like this, and you see those directory got created. And here it was blue on blue, it was not showing. So there's an alias for ls, and it says the dash color is auto. Since I had that color, if you just use it without that dash auto, doing ls-l like this, and that's forcing to just say don't use the alias. So now I say rm dir, and notice that directory that I created, dir1 and new dir, all of them is 755, which means 777 minus the umask 00022, it will give you 755. So now I'm going to rmdir new dir1, and then rmdir new dir command, and rmdir testing. When your commands are successful, if you do like make dir test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, and then you say slash, and you see this. Notice my command is successful. It did not error out. So $? would return 0, meaning it was successfully done. But if I do ls -l, I don't see it because this is like in a same color. So in order to not see that one, you could just say ls -l. That way you get to /bin /ls -l, or mdir test 1, 2, 2. And then now /bin ls -l, it's all there. So we created this account, but now this time I'm going to just change the password. Actually, we already changed the password. We don't need to spend more time on that. Let's just remove the account. And this time /home wahid1, I want to delete everything that is there as well. But don't do this one if you're not sure 100%. This is a test. I could do it. But when you're doing it on a test machine or something, be double checking on the manual pages and understand that what you're doing, because you may be cleaning up some person's home directory inadvertently, which you don't want to do that one. In this case, is a test wahid1. We just demonstrated that it's 0 byte. The file that is there is not necessary, has to be there. So I'm going to do userdel -r and then home wahid1, meaning that remove the home directory as well. -r, remove the directory. And then the user that I want to remove is this. Notice that when I give the syntax, -r is the remove, but then you don't need the home directory parameters. As you can see, it says userdel, and then just the login name, and then the option. So, and this one was not needed, /home wahid. In this case, it's redundant because it knows that you're doing it. And if your account is set up with an email account, like for example, my wlutfi or root, it will send it to a var spool mail directory, an email that the account or the home directory was cleaned up. That -r option does that one. As you can see here, remove home directory and mail spools. So those are there. And then now let's see, grep -i wahid, etc password, etc shadow, and etc shadow with a, shadow, and etc group. So all of them are just cleanly done. But what about /home? Yeah, /home is also, if I do /bin /ls -l, you can see that home is also gone. Okay, so let's just go back to our scenario of useradd, userdel, and then the other group that I had was dev on dev1 on the etc group is there. So I could say dev1, I don't need it. I say or dev user, I don't need it. Those ones I created for temporary. I'm gonna just do group and del dev user. So that would do that one, and then also the dev1. Now I deleted both of them, and if I say grep -i for dev, none of them are there. The other ones I do need them. The two, that dev user and dev1, I created temporary for the purpose of account management stuff, and then we just clean it up. So again, this is on a Ubuntu server, which is 20.04 Linux Ubuntu, long-term support. Whatever command that works, make sure you see that syntax and arguments that you're passing it on, and then you say, okay, that I did it on this account. So now we covered all these ones. Let's just go to the user command. The user command, and when you click on it, it basically shows you, let me just a little bit small it, so you can see. The user command basically is going to show you an output of the command users. So if you click on users, you will see that wlutfi is logged on the system. Okay. So if I just go here and then say users, you can see that will look the same way that it shows up here. Let me clear my screen and then say users, and you can see that same thing that is showing here. The two of them are showing users, and users running this command on the browser. I produce the same output that we get it from a terminal and logging into the actual cloud terminal. But you don't need to run these terminals. I'm just showing you on both on my website as well as the web server itself that I'm running on the machines. You are welcome to test it on any development machine you want to test it, or just test it on my website. I have it here available for you. If you look at the man users, and then you get all the syntax of man users, and then -- help give you the displays, and -- version is there. Similarly, like here, users -- help, it will tell you the syntax, and then clear screen users -- usage. Was it usage? Version. Clear the screen users -- version will give you the version of users running. So, and then the next one that we want to do is let's minimize this window, and then the next command is catman. Catman is this one. Let me make this one screen a little bit bigger again, and move it up. So the next command that we are covering here is catman. Catman is to just create and update the pre-formatted manual pages. And then you can see that you can run the catman and -- version on my website and get the catman output with -- version, which is 2.91. The one that installed catman -- usage and give you a full usage of the command. And then also you can run it with debug or help. And then the help is also right here that will be producing the output dynamically as you run it. And then here, the catman manual pages is also here. So you're welcome to read it and practice some of these commands with the options by scrolling up and down and reading the entire things. So let me small size it. And then right here, when we go back to that one and the next command, catman, the reason I'm just producing all these nice output is that because on the user share man command, man question mark, whatever it is, there's thousands of files. So if I just do a word count -l, 6,432. But if under the catman and then star and then /star, or just do a word count on this one, a star, then it's about 6,570 commands that are in there. And each one of them for just section man1 section, for man1, there's about 1,778 commands. For example, if you do man -s1 printf statement, this is the man1 for section 1 of them. But if you do want to see the section 3 of the man pages for printf statement, that is the standard IO library of printf function that you can just do with when we are doing C or C++ programming language. So Katman is very useful to generate those user share manual pages. And then I'm having all those documentation for you on that technical documentation that I mentioned earlier, about 60 or 70,000 commands that are there. And then you're welcome to use the chapter 7 or the actual directory. So if I just go here and just say www./man_pages, this page, it will just give you Linux and Unix and Solaris and Mac and Windows and PowerShell, all the in sorting order, alphabetical technical documentation. If you click on the Solaris, for example, and then there's about 13,000 technical documentation on this page. As you can see, the page is really huge. If I just scroll slowly, you can see there's thousands and thousands of commands. So if you're looking for like ZFS, for example, on this one, ZFS, you can click on it and then ZFS comments it about file system and start reading it. Similarly, if I want to just do something with PowerShell, the commands are there. So the user man pages, I wrote this Python program. These are all static, as I mentioned earlier. Static because I don't have 5 or 6 web servers to run PowerShell and dynamically generate the man pages or run other commands and generate them. So I'm back to password check. Because the last 2 commands, we're going to cover those 2. And then password check and group check are very easy commands. You basically, one of them checks on your password file, etc password, and it feels on those password, etc password file that is inaccurate, it will give you the information like here it does. And then the group check is similarly for the group check. And then here's, I have man pages for each one of them. If you wanted the group check, for example, just type in group check here. And you can see that it is checking on the group file. And then the group check also could be optional on the shadow files. So if I just type in like here, clear screen, pwck etc password, it will tell me some of those entries that are all kind of okay because nobody has the group of nobody, let's say nobody etc password, and then it doesn't have a login and users spend no login, and then so this those entries are the default accounts that you can just leave it as it is. But when you do a group check for etc group file, it says that I did not find any group mistakes, extra field are there. And similarly, a group check for the shadow file, it will tell you there's a delete line of this one for root, which is invalid group file entry. So the group file entry has an invalid entry there, vi etc. And then some of these entries actually is because of the password expiration, I don't want it to expire. And then normally the system wants to make sure that it's 90 days. But if you don't log into a server, 90 days is after that, when your password expires, you don't want to just lock out yourself there. So there's a very nice command on that Linux in Solaris -x -1, and then root, for example. Now the password expiry entry changed. So grep -I root etc shadow, you can see that now it is having no expiration, which is good for me because I don't want to forget logging into the system and then all of a sudden lock up myself after 90 days. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you are using your system all the time and don't just set the expiry the password. And then the next time I do a passwd root, and then just type in the new password. Let's say I type in just yeah, and the password I provided is did not match. So let me try it with matching. Now this time did it. So if I do a grep -i root etc password on etc shadow, then you can see that the entry is still there. So I'm going to just update it one more time. Clear screen with the password I want to set it to. Password minus dash root. Please don't worry about people are hacking you or anything, because if you can change the password, there's no way for them to just keep hacking you with a new password. And my password is changed. And then I don't want to just text show anything after that one. So now we have cover everything on this chapter. I'm sorry, on this 11 commands on the first row. The next video will be starting from the type, part 2 of this session. So we'll have 8 parts covering all of that. And then at the end, I want to just thank you for your subscription. Please make sure to subscribe and watch. Thanks for watching this video. So I'm going to exit out of this, and then I do a pwd and I run the my banner.sh, which is the welcome page that I showed you this. Welcome to MyWebUniversity free education videos. Moving forward, I'm going to just provide you this at the end of it. And that is basically provide you the actual subscription page, which is also on this front end right here. So you're welcome to go and watch the videos and subscribe. Okay, have a nice one. Love and peace for all. Take care. God bless you all. Let me stop recording.